My beloved, they see you going through the motions of belief. You still attend the gatherings. You still say the words. You still try to wear the outward appearance of a person of faith. But I see behind your eyes. I see into the secret chamber of your heart, where you are wrestling alone in the dark. I see the ache of a faltering faith. I see the fire that once burned so brightly with passion and certainty. A fire that you proudly displayed to others, now dwindled to a single, fragile, flickering ember. And you are terrified that the next gust of wind from a fresh disappointment will extinguish it completely. You have looked at your own doubt, your own penetrating questions, your own spiritual exhaustion, and you have judged yourself with a harshness I would never use. In the silence of your own mind, you have called yourself faithless. You have labeled yourself a hypocrite. You have concluded that you are a spiritual failure. You feel you have disappointed me and that you are letting down everyone around you who looks to you for strength. But you are looking at your faith through the lens of your own fear and comparing it to a standard of perfection that does not exist in any human soul. I see your faith through the lens of my infinite love and understanding. Where you see the shameful failure of your faith, I see the incredible preciousness of its struggle. Where you see only the darkness of your doubt, I see a tiny, resilient, and beautiful seed of true faith that has refused, against all odds, to die before I tell you of the strength that is to come. We must first sit together in the pain of your struggle. I do not dismiss your ache. I have honored it. I have seen the pain of your intellectual doubt. The easy answers and simple platitudes that once comforted you now sound hollow and trite. Your heart and mind have been assaulted by the hard, jagged questions of real life, the agonizing problem of pain, the deafening silence of heaven in the face of your suffering, the infuriating prosperity of the wicked. Your simple, inherited faith has been shaken to its very foundations by these questions, and you have felt ashamed of your own mind for asking them, as if your honest questions were an act of betrayal against me. I have seen the pain of your emotional exhaustion. It is simply exhausting to keep believing in a promise you cannot see. Year after year, it takes an immense amount of energy to hold on to hope in the face of relentless disappointment. You are tired, my child. You are tired of fighting your own doubts, tired of trying to feel something you don't feel, tired of swimming against the powerful current of your own circumstances. A secret part of you just wants to let go, to stop striving, and to be swept away by the cool, dark tide of unbelief. For at least there would be a kind of rest in it. I have seen the pain of your unseen evidence. You have prayed for miracles and have seen only the cold, hard facts of your reality. You have looked for my supernatural intervention and have seen only what appears to be the natural, chaotic course of events. Your faith has been asked to believe in the unseen, and lately, the unseen has felt like the non-existent. It feels like you are a muscle, straining with all your might to lift a weight that isn't even there. And I've seen the pain and shame of your comparison. You look at others whose faith seems so simple, so robust, so untroubled. You hear their confident declarations and their triumphant testimonies, and it only serves to deepen your own sense of spiritual failure. You feel like a spiritual infant. It's struggling in the nursery, while others are feasting as mature sons and daughters in the great banquet hall. My child, you have conceived of faith as a great, mighty, and impenetrable fortress that you are supposed to build. A fortress that must never show a single crack. The moment a stone was loosened by doubt, or a wall was breached by disappointment, you believed the entire structure was compromised, useless, and a testament to your failure as a builder. But this is a wrong understanding of faith. Your faith, in its truest and most powerful form, is not a dead fortress built by your own anxious hands. It is a living, organic seed planted in you by my hand. And the nature of a seed is that it must struggle. It must push through the darkness of the soil. It must fight for life against the rocks and the weeds. The struggle is not a sign of its failure, but the very process of its growth. You saw your doubt as a poison that was killing your faith, but I saw your honest doubt as the very pressure that was forcing the seed of your faith to send its roots down deeper, searching for the living water of my true nature. You saw your hard questions as an act of rebellion, but I saw them as an act of profound engagement. A person who does not care does not ask hard questions. Your wrestling with me was a form of worship far more pleasing to me than the passive, thoughtless agreement of 1,000 others. You saw your spiritual exhaustion as a sign you were giving up, but I saw it as the honorable fatigue of a faithful warrior who has stayed in the fight long after many would have deserted their post. You looked at your faith and saw a tiny, pathetic, flickering ember, and you were ashamed of it. But I looked at your faith and saw a thing of breathtaking beauty, a small flame so tenacious, so stubborn in its will to live, that though it was surrounded by the darkness of your doubt and the raging storms of your life, it refused to be extinguished. To me, that small, struggling flame is more precious, more real, and more beautiful than 1,000 easy bonfires on a calm day. You believe I am disappointed in the weakness of your faith. I tell you the truth, I am not, for I am its author and its source. I planted that seed. I know the life that is within it, and I am far more interested in the raw sincerity of a struggling faith than I am in the polished, prideful performance of a superficial one. Your honest doubt is more precious to me than the hollow certainty of a Pharisee. You have been trying so hard for so long to strengthen your own faith. You have been trying to hold it all together by sheer force of will. But you are tired. It is time for you to let go of that burden. For this is my promise to you, the promise that will define your next season. I will strengthen your faith. The ultimate responsibility for its survival and its growth is not yours. It is mine. You see a dying ember. I see the seed of a mighty oak that will one day give shelter to many. And now, I must tell you about the secret gymnasium I have had you in. The place where that small, struggling faith has been secretly getting stronger all along. You now understand that your faith, even in its most fragile and flickering state, is a precious and living seed in my sight. But how does any living thing grow strong? A seed does not become a mighty oak by remaining in a comfortable, climate-controlled room. It grows strong by pushing against the resistance of the soil, by weathering the storms. A muscle does not grow strong by being at rest. It grows strong by being exercised, by pushing against a weight that seeks to overwhelm it. You have looked at the trials, the hardships, and the relentless adversities of your life as signs that I have abandoned you, or perhaps as punishments for your failures. But I must now pull back the curtain of heaven and show you where you have truly been all this time. You have not been in a prison of my displeasure. You have not been in a wasteland of my neglect. You have been in my private and very exclusive training facility. You have been in the gymnasium of your adversity. I know this is not how it felt. It felt like you were being beaten down, not built up. It felt like your life was a series of random, painful attacks designed to crush the very life out of you with every new trial, with every fresh wave of disappointment. You felt your faith grow weaker, not stronger. You felt that the accumulated weight of your life was going to destroy you. You saw the weights as instruments of destruction, but I, your divine trainer, your loving coach who has never once taken my eyes off you, saw them as instruments of construction. I have been with you for every single painful repetition when you felt you could not possibly lift the weight again. My grace was there as your spotter, ensuring that the weight would never crush you. My purpose was never to break you. It was always to build you. For the gymnasium of adversity is the only place where true, resilient faith can be forged. This is where your faith was being exercised. Let us look at the workout regimen I designed specifically for you. I put you through a long and grueling exercise with the weight of disappointment. Every time a hope was deferred, every time a prayer seemed to go unanswered, every time a door slammed shut, it was like another heavy repetition on the spiritual muscle of your hope. The muscle fibers would tear under the strain, and you would feel the sharp pain of that tearing. But in the rest period that followed the moment you chose, against all feeling, to trust me again, my spirit would rush in and weave those torn fibers back together, stronger than they were before. I was not teaching you to hope in outcomes. I was training you to hope in my character. I was building a hope in you so strong it could bear the weight of any disappointment. I trained you with the resistance band of human opposition, the criticism you have endured, the misunderstanding, the judgment, the betrayal. This was a divine resistance band I wrapped around your life. Every time you had to push against it, every time you had to stand firm in who I've called you to be despite their disapproval, every time you chose to love when they gave you hate, you were strengthening the muscles of perseverance, courage, and unconditional love. A faith that has never faced resistance is a flabby, useless, and theoretical faith. Your faith is now lean, strong, and powerful because of the very resistance you have hated. Perhaps the most difficult exercise of all was the long, monotonous, and seemingly pointless treadmill of the mundane. There have been long seasons in your life where nothing seemed to happen. There was no great trial, no great victory, no excitement, no visible progress. Every day was the same. You felt you were going nowhere. But this was my training for the most important spiritual muscle of all the muscle of faithfulness. I was teaching you to keep showing up, to keep praying when you felt nothing, to keep obeying in the small, unseen things, to keep putting one spiritual foot in front of the other, even when you saw no change in the scenery. This is the endurance that I value most highly. It is the faithfulness of the long-distance runner, not the explosive energy of the sprinter. And we must speak of the pain of the negative repetition in the world of weight training. The experts know that the most muscle growth happens not in the lifting of the weight, but in the slow, controlled, painful lowering of it. The moments in your life where you have had to let go, where you have had to surrender a cherished dream, where you have had to accept a painful loss, where you have had to release your own will. These have been the negative reps for your soul. They have felt like utter defeat. But I tell you, it was in that painful, slow, and tearful release that you are building the ultimate spiritual strength, the strength of surrender. You were learning to let go of your own desperate grip on your life so that you could take hold of mine. You must understand this principle of spiritual muscle growth. To build new, stronger muscle fiber, the old, weak fiber must first be torn down. The soreness you feel after a physical workout is the feeling of this tearing and subsequent rebuilding process. The spiritual soreness you have felt for so long, the deep, pervasive ache in your soul, has been the feeling of your old, weak, superficial faith being torn down so that I could build something far stronger, far more powerful, and far more resilient in its place. So I'm calling you now to re-examine your past. Look back at your greatest trials, your most painful adversities, the seasons that you thought had almost destroyed you. And I want you to begin to see them through my eyes, instead of seeing them as wounds that have weakened you. I want you to begin seeing them as your most effective workouts. Instead of remembering them with shame or bitterness, I want you to begin to see them as the very places where your greatest spiritual strength was forged. I am asking you not to despise your gymnasium. In fact, I am asking you to give thanks for it, for the strength it has produced in you is a beautiful and fearsome thing to behold. The season of your most intensive training is now coming to an end. The deep soreness in your soul is beginning to subside, and you are now rising from the gym floor, not as a broken and bleeding victim, but as a tested and proven spiritual athlete. You may not see it yet when you look in the mirror. You may still see only the memory of your weakness. But I see it. I see the new strength, the new definition, the new power in your spirit. The old, brittle faith has been broken down. A new, strong, and resilient faith has been built in its place. And you are about to discover what this new strength can do. You have begun to understand that your adversities were not random attacks, but a divine gymnasium where your faith was being exercised and strengthened. But now, we must speak of the most difficult, the most painful, and the most confusing exercise in that entire facility. It is the one that has caused you the most grief, the one that has most often brought you to the brink of despair. We must speak of what you have perceived as unanswered prayer, but what I call the sacred gift of my silence. I know that calling it a gift sounds paradoxical, even cruel, to you, for you. This experience has felt like a curse. You have come to me with a sincere heart. You have poured out your soul, pleading my own promises back to me. You have fasted. You have wept. You have gathered others to pray with you. You have mustered all the faith you could find, only to be met with a silence from heaven so profound it felt like a thick, soundproof wall. This silence has felt like my ultimate rejection. It has planted dark seeds of doubt in your mind, making you wonder if I am truly good, if I am truly powerful, or if I am simply indifferent to your pain. Of all the exercises in the gymnasium, this one has been the greatest assault on your belief in my love. But I must pull back the curtain on this mystery. You have perceived my silence as a denial of your request. But I was not denying your request. I was seeking to deepen the requester in your spiritual youth. Your faith, like that of so many of my beloved children, was largely transactional. It operated on a simple, almost mathematical formula. If I do my part, pray earnestly, obey the rules, have enough faith, then God is obligated to do his part, answer my prayer, fix my problem, bless my life. This is the faith of a servant and a master. It is the faith of a customer and a vendor. It is a faith that, in a very subtle way, seeks to control me and manage my responses. But my desire for you is infinitely greater than this. I do not want you to be my contractor. I want you to be my child. I do not want a business partner. I want a companion. My silence was one of the primary tools I used to wean you from a transactional faith and invite you into a truly relational trust. A transactional faith is built on the reliability of a formula. It is fragile. The moment the formula seems to fail, the moment you do all the right things and still do not get the desired outcome, the entire faith structure collapses. But a relational faith is built on the reliability of a person. It is built not on what I do, but on who I am, by withholding the immediate answer you so desperately wanted. I was forcing you to confront a deeper question on, do I trust God because he gives me what I want? Or do I trust God simply because he is God? I was inviting you out of the courtroom of performance and into the living room of intimacy. I was willing to risk your temporary disappointment for the sake of your eternal security in me. In a transactional faith, at its core, seeks my hand. A relational faith learns to seek my face. You came to me rightly, asking for the gifts that were in my hand, the healing, the financial provision, the open door, the restored relationship. These are good things to ask for. And I delight in giving them to you. But I, in my infinite love for you, wanted to give you something infinitely better. I wanted to give you me. I wanted you to fall so deeply in love with the giver that the gifts themselves would become secondary. Sometimes, the only way to accomplish this is to withhold the gifts for a season. It is in the desperation of an empty hand that a soul finally lifts its eyes and discovers that my face, my presence, my companionship alone is the greatest treasure in the universe. Your unanswered prayers were my invitation to you to come deeper, to find a satisfaction in me that no answered prayer could ever provide. Think back on some of those specific prayers that have caused you such pain. You prayed with all your heart for me to open a certain door. You knew it was the right door, but it remained sealed shut. My silence was not a no. It was a quiet and loving. Trust me, I have something far better for you. A door you cannot yet see. A door that leads to a place beyond your wildest dreams. My refusal to open the good door was my way of protecting you and guiding you toward the best door. You prayed for me to remove a thorn from your flesh, to take away a persistent pain or a humiliating weakness. My silence was not a sign of my indifference to your suffering. It was my quiet, love and insistence that my grace was sufficient for you. It was my desire to show you, and the world through you, that my divine power is actually made more perfect and more visible, not in your miraculous rescue from the weakness, but in your supernatural endurance in the midst of the weakness. I was determined to give you a greater testimony. The unanswered prayers have been a painful but precious gift. They have dismantled the prideful, subtle belief that you know what is best for your own life. They have forced you into a place of profound surrender. They have taught you that my wisdom is higher than your wisdom, and my ways are higher than your ways. They have moved you from a faith that says, I believe God can, to a faith that says, I believe God is. So I'm calling you now to look back at that long list of your unanswered prayers. I want you to stop seeing it as a record of my failures or your own. I want you to begin seeing it as the history of my successful, loving, and relentless attempts to draw you out of the shallows of a formulaic religion and into the deep, mysterious, and wonderful ocean of a true relationship with me. You have graduated from the kindergarten of transactional faith. You are now thriving in the university of relational trust. You no longer love me primarily for what I can give you. You now love me simply for who I am. This is the mature, tested, and beautiful faith that I can now entrust with great blessings, because I know with certainty that you will not fall in love with the blessing. You will remain in love with the blesser. The gift of your unanswered prayers has finally produced its most precious fruit, a faith that is pure, a love that is real, and a heart that is truly and completely mine. You now understand that my silence and your unanswered prayers were a sacred gift, a divine tool I used to wean you from a fragile, transactional faith into a deep, relational trust. But there's a deeper work still that I have been accomplishing in you, for it is not enough to simply change the form of your faith from transactional to relational. I also needed to purify the very substance of your belief. For this, I had to use a tool more intense and more fearsome than silence. I had to place you, my beloved, into the crucible that purifies belief. I know that in this past season, you have felt as though you were in a fire. You have felt the searing heat of affliction, the burning pain of loss, the intense and unrelenting pressure of circumstances that seem designed to consume you entirely. You have felt the very foundations of your belief system melting away beneath you. And in your terror, you have cried out, why this fire? Lord, why this intense, agonizing heat? It is destroying everything I thought I believed. I am losing my faith. You saw the fire as a force of absolute destruction. But I, the divine refiner, was the one presiding over the furnace. I was the one who set the temperature. I was the one who controlled the duration. And my purpose was never, ever to destroy the precious metal of your true faith. My purpose was only to burn away the impurities, the contaminants, the cheap and worthless dross that had become mixed in with it over the years. The crucible of your suffering was not an act of my anger. It was an act of my profound and purifying love. I was willing to put you through the fire to give you a faith that was pure, strong, and of infinite value. I was burning away the dross of easy believism. What was this dross that had to be removed? First, there was the dross of an inherited faith. A portion of the faith you held was not truly your own. It was the faith of your parents, the faith of your pastor, the faith of your community. It was a good and beautiful starting point, but it had never been tested in the furnace of your own personal experience. It was a set of beliefs you held in your head, not a conviction that had been forged in your heart. The fire of your personal suffering has burned away the second-hand, borrowed belief, forcing you to find a faith that is authentically and powerfully your own, one that has been tested by your own questions and proven true in your own life. Then there was the dross of subtle idolatries. Mixed in with your true faith in me were pockets of faith in other things. You had a faith in your own strength and your own intellect. You had a faith in your financial security. You had a faith in the stability of your relationships and in the approval of certain people. You did not even realize these idols were there until the fire came. The fire of my love is a jealous fire, and it will not tolerate rivals for your heart's trust. So the fire targeted these other things. It burned away your reliance on your own strength by bringing you to a place of utter helplessness. It burned away your trust in money by allowing lack. It burned away your need for others' approval through seasons of rejection and misunderstanding. I had to allow these other, lesser foundations to be shaken and burned so that you would finally build your life on the only foundation that can never be moved, me, and me alone. There was also the dross of a feel-good gospel. In your culture, you had absorbed a comfortable and popular, but ultimately weak and foolish version of faith. It was a faith that promised health, wealth, and happiness without trial. It was a faith that saw me as a divine butler, whose job was to make your life easy and comfortable. This flimsy, easy believism is a theology that cannot withstand the harsh realities of a broken world. The fire of your real-life suffering, your grief, your pain, your disappointments has mercifully burned away that shallow and heretical theology, and in its place, it has forged a faith that is rugged, resilient, and true. You now possess a faith that works not just on the sunny mountaintops of blessing, but one that is perfected and shines most brightly in the dark valleys of affliction. And finally, there was even the dross of spiritual pride. Even a genuine faith can have the subtle dross of pride mixed in with it. There was a quiet pride in your theological knowledge, a hidden pride in your spiritual disciplines, a subtle pride in your own moral effort, the fire of humiliation, of not having the answers, of feeling spiritually bankrupt, of seeing your own powerlessness has burned away that religious pride. And in its place, it has left the beautiful, shimmering purity of a truly humble and contrite heart, which is the only vessel I can truly fill and use for my glory. You must understand the process of a refiner. A refiner of silver never walks away from the crucible. He sits by the fire, his eyes fixed intently on the molten metal. He knows that if the heat is too high, or if he leaves it in the furnace for even a moment too long, the precious silver itself will be damaged or destroyed. My child, I have sat with you by the fire of your affliction every single moment. My eyes have never left you. I have controlled the heat with a perfect and loving precision that you cannot imagine. I have allowed it to be just hot enough to burn away the dross, but I have never, ever allowed it to be hot enough to harm the precious substance of the true faith I have placed in you. And how does a refiner know when the process is complete? He knows the silver is finally pure when he can look down into the crucible and see his own reflection, clear and undistorted by the impurities. I have been watching over the crucible of your life, waiting for the moment when I could look into the molten substance of your faith and see the pure, beautiful, and undistorted reflection of my own Son. You may find yourself missing the comfort of your old, impure faith. It was easier. It was less demanding. It did not require so much from you. But I tell you, the pure, tested, and resilient faith you now possess is infinitely more valuable, more real, and more powerful. It is a faith that I can trust with great authority. It is a faith that the enemy of your soul now sees and fears. It is a faith that will not fail you in the greater storms that are yet to come. The fire is now being lowered. The crucible is being carefully removed from the furnace. The smoke is clearing. And what remains in the vessel of your life is not a pile of worthless ash, but a pool of shimmering, purified, and priceless faith. It is beautiful in my sight, and it is now ready to be poured out and fashioned into a vessel of honor, fit for the Master's use. The crucible of your adversity has done its purifying work. The dross of a second hand, easy believism has been burned away, leaving behind a faith that is pure, real, and authentically your own. But I know that this fiery process has left you with something that you now carry with a great deal of secret shame. It has left you with questions. It has left you with doubts. It has left you with a mind that no longer easily accepts simple platitudes. And you fear that this new, questioning state of your heart is a sign that your faith is still weak. Or perhaps even that it has been mortally wounded in the fire. You have been taught by a well-meaning but often mistaken religious culture that doubt is the opposite of faith. You have been told that a strong believer never questions, never wavers, never entertains a doubt. And so, when the searing, honest, and intelligent questions have risen up from the depths of your own soul, you have felt a profound sense of guilt and spiritual failure. You have tried to suppress your doubts. You have tried to hide them from your friends, your family, and even from me. You have believed that your questions were a betrayal, a sign that you are failing me. But I have come to you today to set you free with a glorious and liberating truth. I am the God of all truth, and I am not, and have never been, afraid of your honest questions. I am not offended by your sincere doubts. In fact, I tell you a great mystery of my kingdom. I have often used your seasons of doubt as one of my most effective tools to draw you into a deeper and more real relationship with me. For blind, unthinking acceptance of a doctrine is not true faith. It is merely mental assent. True faith, the kind that can withstand the storms of life, is a rugged, wrestling, questioning, and ultimately trusting relationship with a person. You have thought your questions were pushing me away, but I tell you the truth, how your questions drew you closer. You must understand that your doubts are not a sign of a wicked heart. They are often the sign of a hungry heart. You began to doubt the shallow, easy answers because your soul had developed a deep and holy hunger for a more substantial truth. Your questions are the cry of your spirit, refusing to be satisfied with the spiritual fast food of simplistic cliches and demanding the rich, nourishing bread of real communion with me. Your doubt was not a rejection of me. It was a rejection of an inadequate and childish version of me that could no longer satisfy your maturing soul. Your doubt is a holy hunger that I myself have created in you. Look at the history of my relationship with humanity. The heroes of your faith were not men and women of simple, untroubled belief. They were wrestlers. They were questioners. Jacob wrestled with me by the river Jabbok, refusing to let go until he received a blessing. And I honored him by changing his very name. My servant Job, in the midst of his unimaginable suffering, questioned my justice, my goodness, and my very character from the depths of a whirlwind of pain. And in the end, I honored his raw honesty far more than the pious, empty platitudes of his friends. And I gave him a revelation of myself that was deeper than he had ever known. My servant David, whom I called a man after my own heart, filled the Psalms with his doubts, his fears, his complaints, and his raw, unfiltered questions to me. Do you see the opposite of love is not hate? It is indifference. And the opposite of faith is not doubt. It is a cold, cynical indifference that does not care enough to even ask the questions, to not engage me in your confusion, to not wrestle with me in your pain, to not cry out your questions into the silence that is true faithlessness. You're wrestling. You're arguing. You're pleading with me in the dark. This has been a form of intimate, honest, and profoundly powerful prayer. It has been the sign of a soul that is desperately engaged with me. And that is a sound that I love to hear. Furthermore, your questions have been carving out a capacity within you to receive a deeper answer. You cannot receive a profound and glorious revelation until you have first felt the deep and agonizing ache of the question. A person who had never truly questioned, my goodness, cannot be overwhelmed with joy at the final revelation of it. A person who has never wrestled with the problem of pain cannot fully appreciate the beauty of my redemptive plan. A person who has never doubted my presence in the silence cannot be undone by the sweet whisper of my voice when it finally comes. Your questions have not been pushing me away. They have been creating a space inside you, a new room in the mansion of your soul that I am now about to fill with a revelation of myself that is far deeper and more glorious than you could have contained before. Now, I must make a distinction for you. There's a vast difference between the honest doubt of a seeker and the cynical unbelief of a mocker. Honest doubt is a heart that says, I cannot see you. I cannot understand you, God, but I want to. Help me. Cynical unbelief is a heart that says, I cannot see you or understand you, and therefore I will not. Honest doubt is a journey toward me, even if it feels like a journey in the dark. Cynical unbelief is a folding of the arms, a hardening of the heart, and a turning away. I have never once turned away from a soul that is wrestling in honest doubt. It is the very soul in which the greatest and most resilient faith grows. So I'm giving you a new freedom and a new command today. Stop hiding your questions. Stop being ashamed of your doubts. I want you to bring them all out into the light of my presence. Yell them into the wind if you must. Write them down in your journal with all their raw, untamed emotion. Speak them to me in your prayers with a brutal honesty. Do not fear that you will offend me. You cannot. Your mind is too small to conceive of a question that could threaten me. I would rather have one honest wrestling match with you in the dark than 1,000 polite but distant religious services in the light. The faith you now possess, the faith that is emerging from this crucible of questioning, is not a fragile, glass-like faith that shatters at the first sign of trouble. It is a rugged, tested, battle-hardened faith. It is strong, not because it has no scars, but because it is covered in them. It is beautiful, not because it has all the answers, but because it has learned to desperately and completely trust the one who is the answer. Your doubts have not destroyed your faith. My child, they have been the very tools I have used to deconstruct your old, flimsy religion and to build a deep, strong, and unshakable relationship with me. We have journeyed together through the sacred and often painful rooms of your spiritual training. We have walked through the gymnasium of your adversity, the classroom of my silence, the purifying crucible of your trials, and the wrestling ring of your honest doubts. You now understand that every part of your difficult journey was an intentional and loving part of my process to strengthen your faith. And now, the time for explanation is drawing to a close, and the time for declaration has arrived. A new reality has dawned for you. My child, whether you fully feel it yet or not. Therefore, I, the author and the finisher of your faith, the one who planted the seed and has faithfully tended it through the long winter, declare to you today that the work of strengthening has achieved its glorious purpose. The old, weak, brittle faith of your past, the faith that was based on feelings and formulas, has been systematically dismantled and has been fully replaced. And in its place, a new strength has been forged. What you now possess is not the faith of a novice, but the tested and proven faith of a veteran. It is a faith that has been through the fire and has come forth as pure, resilient, and powerful gold to help you understand the profound transformation that has taken place within you. You must see the great contrast between the faith you once had and the faith you now possess. Your old faith was a faith based on feelings. It was strong on the days you felt my presence, and it was weak and trembling on the days you did not. It soared on the wings of positive emotions and plummeted into the abyss during seasons of sadness or discouragement. It was a faith as fickle and unpredictable as the weather. But the faith you now possess has been weaned from this dependency. It is a faith that has learned to stand firm even when all feelings of my nearness have vanished. It is anchored not in the shifting sands of your emotions, but in the unshakable bedrock of my unchanging character and my infallible word. It is a faith that can now thrive even in the midst of a long, emotional winter. Your old faith was brittle. It was like beautiful but fragile glass. it looked pretty in the light of your good circumstances. But at the first hard blow of a real trial, it shattered into 1,000 pieces of doubt and despair. But the faith you now possess is resilient. It is like finely tempered steel. It has been heated in the furnace of affliction until it was white hot. And then it has been plunged into the cold waters of disappointment. This process, repeated over and over, has removed all the brittleness. It has made your faith strong, flexible, and able to bend under immense pressure without breaking. Your old faith was naive. It was sincere, but it was untested. It believed in a simple, straightforward formula for a trouble-free life. It did not truly understand the deep complexities of a fallen world, the cunning of your spiritual adversary, or the high and mysterious nature of my sovereign ways. But your new faith is wise. It is a faith that has looked suffering and doubt squarely in the eye and has not flinched. It no longer demands easy answers, for it has learned to rest in the arms of a God who is sovereign over all unanswerable questions. It is a faith that is now mature, discerning, and powerful in its quiet wisdom. Your old faith often felt the need to be loud. It needed to make grand declarations to convince itself and others of its own reality. It needed constant affirmation, constant activity, and constant noise. But your new, tested faith has a quiet and profound confidence. It does not need to shout, for it knows it is heard. It does not need to prove itself, for it has already been proven in the fire. It has a settled, internal strength and a peaceful authority that is far more powerful than all of your old. Anxious noise. You may still feel weak at times. You may still have moments where you feel that your faith is small. But I tell you, your new, tested faith is a fearsome and mighty thing in the spiritual realm. The accuser of your soul is terrified of this kind of faith. Why? Because it is no longer based on your circumstances, which he can manipulate. It is no longer based on your feelings, which he can influence. It is based solely and completely on me, my character, my word, and my love, and I am the one thing in the universe he cannot touch, he cannot change, and he cannot defeat. Your tested faith is a powerful shield that now extinguishes every single flaming arrow he hurls at you. And this faith brings me great honor. It is a faith that I can now trust with greater assignments, greater spiritual authority, and greater blessings. In the past, to have given you great success would have been a danger to you, for your weak faith would have given way to pride. But now, your strong and humble faith is a vessel that I can pour my blessings into, knowing that you will give all the glory back to me. Therefore, I'm calling you now to stop identifying with the weak, brittle, and faltering faith of your past. That is no longer who you are. The transformation, though hidden and slow, has been profound and complete. You must begin to see yourself as I see you, as a warrior of faith, a veteran of the spiritual battlefield, clothed in a quiet strength and a deep resilience. You must begin to own the strength that has been forged in you by the very fires you thought would consume you. When a new trial comes, and it will, your old habit may be to react with immediate fear and doubt. But I'm calling you to catch yourself. I'm calling you to pause, to take a breath, and to remind your own soul of this truth. No, I am not that person anymore. My faith has been through the fire. My roots have been driven deep. I have been trained for this. By the grace of God, I can and I will withstand this. This new and powerful faith was not given to you to be admired or to be kept on a shelf like a trophy from your past struggles. It was forged for a purpose. It was designed to be used, to be wielded, to be released into the world. The long and difficult season of strengthening is complete. Now, the new and exciting season of using this new strength begins. And I will show you how to move from a defensive posture of just trying to hold on to your faith to a bold, offensive posture of changing the world around you with your faith. A new and formidable strength has been forged in the very core of your being. The tested, resilient, and powerful faith you now possess is a gift from my own hand, a beautiful and fearsome weapon for the kingdom of light. But a sword, no matter how sharp or strong, is useless if it is left hanging on the wall as a mere decoration. It was not designed to be admired. It was designed to be wielded. You must now learn how to take this faith that I have strengthened in you off the wall of your past experience and use it with skill, with purpose, and with a new and holy boldness. For so long, your primary relationship with your faith has been one of desperate defense. Your daily cry has been, God, help me hold on. God, please don't let my faith die. You have seen yourself as a soldier in a besieged fortress, surrounded by the overwhelming forces of doubt, disappointment, and despair. Your every effort has been focused on reinforcing the walls, putting out fires, and simply not being overrun. But I declare to you today that the long siege has been broken. The enemy's camp is in disarray. The victory has been won, and I'm now calling you to a radical and exhilarating shift in your spiritual posture. The time for cowering behind the walls is over. I'm calling you to throw open the gates, to move from a defensive stance to an offensive one. You are no longer just a survivor, desperately holding on. You are now a conqueror, confidently stepping out. Your faith is no longer just a shield to protect you from the flaming arrows of the enemy. It is now a sharp, two-edged sword in your hand, meant to advance my kingdom and to push back the darkness. You are moving from holding on to stepping out. So how do you wield this strengthened faith? How do you live in this new offensive posture? First, you must learn to speak to your mountains. In the past, when you were faced with a great and seemingly impossible obstacle, a mountain of debt, a mountain of sickness, a mountain of relational strife, you would pray about your mountain. You would come to me and describe the mountain in great and vivid detail. You would tell me how big it was, how intimidating it was, how long it had been there, and you would ask me to please do something about it. That was the prayer of a weak faith. But a strengthened faith speaks differently. I am now giving you the authority to stop talking to me about the mountain and to start speaking directly to the mountain. Speak to that mountain of debt and command it to be cast into the sea in my name. Speak to that sickness and command it to leave your body. Speak to that storm of chaos and command it to be still. Your faith, strengthened in the crucible, now carries the creative authority to move the unmovable. Second, I'm calling you to learn to walk on water. The boat of your comfort zone, your predictable routines, your safe relationships, your manageable risks have become too small for you. You're new. Strength and faith requires a larger arena in which to operate. I am now calling you, once again, to look at the storm and then to step out of the boat. There are risks I am asking you to take, opportunities I am calling you to seize. That will require you to walk on the water of the impossible. Your old, weak faith would have kept you clinging to the side of the boat, paralyzed by the sight of the wind and the waves. But you're new. Resilient faith has the strength to keep its eyes fixed on me, even when the winds of circumstance begin to howl. It is time to take the risks you were afraid to take before. Third, you must begin to pray kingdom prayers. Your prayer life is about to expand dramatically. You will, of course, always be my beloved child, and you're always invited to bring your personal needs, your hurts, and your desires to me. But your strength and faith will now give you a new and greater capacity. You will begin to feel a new burden on your heart for my greater purposes in the earth. You will find yourself praying for your city, for your nation, for the salvation of the lost, for revival in my church, with a new authority and a new sense of partnership with me. Your faith is no longer just a tool for your own survival. It is now a powerful instrument for the expansion of my kingdom on this earth. I have strengthened you so that I can entrust you with bigger prayer assignments. And finally, you must now become a faith giver to others, because your own faith has been so deeply and painfully tested. You are now a specialist. You are a veteran. You are uniquely qualified to strengthen the faltering faith of others. In the past, you may have avoided people who were struggling with doubt because their questions made you uncomfortable and exposed your own weaknesses. But now, you are to seek them out. When you encounter someone who is wrestling with the same doubts you once wrestled with, you are not to judge them or offer them cheap platitudes. You now have the wisdom and the testimony to sit with them in their pain and to gently guide them. You will be able to say with quiet authority, I know how you feel. I have been exactly where you are. And let me tell you about the faithfulness of a God who met me in that dark place. Your past struggles have now become your greatest ministry. You are to be a distributor of the very strength I have given you. Do you see the shift? You must stop seeing yourself as a person who is struggling with their faith. That was your old identity. Your new identity is a warrior of faith. You are a giant slayer. You are a history maker. You are a co-laborer with me in my great redemptive work. This is who you are now. It is time for your actions, your words, and your prayers to align with this powerful new identity. The gymnasium is now closed. The intensive training is over. The battlefield awaits. But it is a battlefield where the victory is already assured. The world is full of mountains that need to be moved, storms that need to be stilled, and captives that need to be set free. I have not put you through the fire and strengthened your faith for it to remain a private, dormant reality. I have strengthened you for such a time as this. Now, take up the sword of your new faith. Step out of the fortress of your old defenses. It is time for us to advance together. You now understand how to wield the strength and faith I have forged within you. You know that you are called to move from a defensive posture of holding on to a bold, offensive posture of stepping out. You are to speak to your mountains, to walk on the water of the impossible, to pray kingdom prayers, and to be a faith giver to others. But even as you embrace this new and powerful commission, I know the final question that can haunt the human heart after a great victory. A quiet, anxious fear can creep in. But can I maintain this new strength? What if a future trial comes that is greater than this one? What if I grow weak again? What if, after all this, my faith falters once more? You fear that the ongoing responsibility to maintain and perfect your own faith rests upon your own weary shoulders. So, as we conclude our time together, I must give you one final, glorious, and liberating promise. It is the promise that removes the ultimate burden of performance from you and places it firmly onto me. We must now speak of my final and most important role in your journey of belief. I am the author and the finisher of your faith. My child, you did not begin your own faith. You did not. One day, through sheer force of will, decide to believe in me. Your faith was a gift from me. It was a divine, living seed that I sovereignly chose to plant in the soil of your heart. And just as I was the author of your faith, the one who wrote its first, fragile lines, I will also be its finisher, the one who writes its final, triumphant chapter. The journey of your faith is a great and epic story that I'm writing with your life. And I do not leave my stories unfinished. The ultimate pressure to maintain, to grow, and to perfect your faith is not on you. It is on me. And this is my covenant promise to you. I will complete the good work I began in you. This is a covenant of my eternal commitment to you. And these are its terms. First, you must know that I am the eternal source of your faith. A river cannot produce its own water. It must be continually fed by a source, a spring from a high mountain. In the same way, your faith cannot sustain itself. It cannot live on the memory of past experiences. It must be continually fed by me, its living source. Therefore, your great responsibility is not to try and generate more faith through your own effort. Your responsibility is simply to stay connected to me. It is to abide in me, to draw your life from me through prayer and my word. As long as you remain connected to the source, your faith will never run dry, because I am the inexhaustible, eternal wellspring of all belief. Second, know that I am the protector of your faith. The new, strong faith that I have forged in you is precious, and I will guard it with a divine jealousy. When future storms come that seem greater than your current strength, I will be your shield and your windbreak. When the enemy, who despises your test of faith, launches a new and cunning attack specifically designed to shipwreck your belief, I will be your great defender, just as my son prayed for his disciple Peter, saying, I have prayed for you, that your faith may not fail. So I have prayed for you, and my prayers are always effective. I will not allow you to be tempted or tested beyond what you are able to bear. I will protect the precious gift I have given you. And third, know that I am the perfecter of your faith. The strength you possess now, as great as it is compared to your past, is not the end of the story. I am not finished with you yet. The work of strengthening you will continue for the rest of your days on this earth. I will lead you into new challenges that will build new spiritual muscles you do not yet possess. I will bring you into new revelations of my love that will expand your trust in ways you cannot yet imagine. The process does not end today. My great overarching purpose is to conform you into the beautiful image of my Son, and I am a master craftsman who is absolutely committed to his work. I will not stop chipping, sanding, and polishing until the work is complete, either in this life or in the glory that is to come. So what is your part in this great covenant? It is a part of active and joyful rest. It is to let go of the deep, exhausting anxiety that you might somehow fail me so completely that I would give up on you. You will stumble. My child, you will have moments of weakness, but you will not fall away, because my everlasting arms are underneath you, holding you. Your eternal security rests not in the perfection of your walk, but in the perfection of my promise. Your role is simply to keep showing up, to keep trusting, to keep abiding, and to keep allowing me, the master craftsman, to continue my beautiful, lifelong work in you. Your faith is not just for the short life. It is a seed of eternity. The trust, the resilience, the character, and the love that you are developing now are eternal treasures that you will carry with you into the next life. You are not just building a life, you are building an eternity. And I, your God, am the guarantor, the underwriter, and the finisher of that entire glorious project. And so, my beloved warrior of faith, my mighty oak whose roots are deep and whose branches are now ready for fruit, be at rest. The burden is lifted. The pressure is off. The final outcome of your life is not in doubt, for it is in my hands. We have walked together from the fragile, flickering ember of a faltering faith, through the gymnasium of adversity and the crucible of trial, to this place of new and resilient strength. And now I have shown you that I myself will carry you from this place into an eternity of ever-increasing glory. Let go of the need to be strong enough. Simply rest in the strength of the one who holds you. Let go of the fear that you might fail. Simply trust in the faithfulness of the one who will never fail you. A master artist never abandons his greatest work halfway through. Rest now. Trust me. I have begun a good work in you, and I, the faithful and true one, will see it through to its glorious completion.